Guys, this is the 5th video of the Golang Google Scraper series, and in this video we'll have to create our getScrapeClient function, which is part of the scrapeClient request function, right? So this was pending from our end, getScrapeClient, and also this function, Google result parsing. These two functions were pending from the last video, right? So let's get started. So I'll start creating the getScrapeClient function out here. So we'll say func get scrape client. All right. So this function will take some parameters. It will return some parameters. Okay. And also it will have a function definition. And the thing that I want to return here is basically the HTTP client that we'll use to scrape. Okay. And now, if you remember in the second or the third video, I told you that there's something called as proxy string. So we can either say that use the proxy as our HTTP client or use a default HTTP client. So this is our default HTTP client, right? And but there's a possibility that there could be a proxy string as well. So we'll say proxy string. It's of type interface, and what this function returns is the HTTP client, right? So we'll pass a pointer there because you're passing the address of the HTTP client. Now, this in the default case, I want to return the HTTP client, and I want to switch. So I want to say proxy string dot type, and inside that I want to encapsulate this, right? And I want to switch that basically. So I'll say switch v equal to proxy string dot type, and so the default, I want to return this HTTP client. And if the case is string, if I have passed a string in the proxy, then I'll say proxy URL comma blank is equal to URL dot parse v, and we'll return. So here I want to return the HTTP dot proxy URL. Okay. And this will be in curly braces, and I'll say proxy. I'll assign this to proxy, right? Again, this is only going to be used if you're using a proxy, right? Proxy string. But in our case, we're not going to use it, right? We're going to pass. We're going to have a default HTTP client. So we don't have to write this code, this particular code. We can just return this, and that's it. And we don't have to do all of this. But I'm just doing it in case we want to extend this code base later on, right? So it's always a good practice to think about the future. And then here we'll say ampersand, we'll say ampersand HTTP dot transport. Okay. And then just like I assigned the proxy to proxy, I'll have to assign transport to transport as well, right? And this also we will encapsulate in curly braces. So far so good. And then encapsulate this with HTTP dot client and pass it as a address, right? So default case, you pass this, you return this, and if it's a string, you've passed string as a proxy string, then you'll have transport and proxy, and then you'll pass a client with this transport and this proxy, right? Now this means that only one function is left, which is Google result parsing. So let's create that function. Func Google result parsing. It's going to accept some parameters, going to return some parameters, right? And it's going to have a definition. So the thing that we'll be passing to it, right? If you see Google result parsing out here, we are sending the response that we received after we scraped the client, right? We are sending, like, after we made the request, we received some response, and that's the response that we are sending to this, right? And then we're sending something called as the result counter as well. So I think we can accept those two parameters. So we can accept a response, and you know that response is of type http.response, and comma, let's call this rank, which in this case was called result counter. We'll call it rank here. Okay, and this returns, as we know, we want search result, and it can also return an error. All right, and now I want to create a document from response, so I'll use Go query library, and I'll say new document from the response that I have received, and here I'll pass the response, obviously. And again, this returns two things. It returns the document, it returns an error in case there's an error. And as you know that always when we accept an error, we also check if there is an error. So we'll say if error not equal to nil, we need to return nil for the search result, and we need to return the error if there's an error. Okay. Then we'll define a variable called results, and we'll make it equal to search result. And we'll have a variable called cell. It will basically find div.g in the Google document. So when we made a request to Google, right, using that URL that we created ourselves, we received some response. That response now we have created into a document format which we can work with. So we can query the document, we can run find functions, we can run different types of string functions, trimming functions, all of those we can run on a document, right? That's why we convert it into a document. Now in that document we want to find this ID div.g, because this will contain every single request, and we'll say rank +1, and now we'll iterate over cell, which is this cell, and it will have different nodes. So we'll say for I equal to range cell.nodes. The nodes have the individual results that we're after, right? So we'll start assigning variables, and we'll start taking all the values. So I'll get the item, I'll get the link tag, item.find a. So as you know, in HTML, a always has the link tag, and the link itself will be in link tag dot attribute href, right? When you have an a tag, you'll have href. That's why you said link tag dot attribute href. And then we'll have the title tag item dot find h3.r. Then we'll have a description tag, which will be item dot find span.st, and we'll have a description, which will be description tag that we just got here, description tag, right, dot text. Then we will have our title, which will be title tag dot text, right, this title tag. So we have found the title tag, h3.r is the element that has the title tag. We'll convert it into text to get our title, and for description tag we'll get the description tag using span.st. So these basically are used by Google, right? And so div.g and h3.r, span.st, these are all used by Google, and we're finding and keeping those items, and then we're getting our variables like description and title. Then we'll say link is equal to strings dot trim link for any empty spaces, This is how you have an empty space in Golang. You have these two double inverted commas and space in between them. And then we'll say if link not equal to empty, if the link is not empty, and link is not a null link. So you know how to keep a null link, right? You just have a hash there. And strings dot has prefix. So link doesn't have a prefix like this, right? Then you'll say result equal to search result. So you'll create one search result. You'll say rank. It'll have rank. It'll have link. It'll have title. It'll have description. So you already know that we have defined our search result as a struct already earlier in this code. It has these things, and these are the things that we wanted from here, right? So that's why we had to find these attributes, and then we had to find those items, and then we have to get those items into text, and that's how we stored into description and link and title. Right, so we have all the things that we need. Now we're going to take our results variable that we have out here. We have already defined it, results. It will be of a slice of type search result. So as you know, with slices we can append. So we'll say append and results comma result, and we'll say rank plus plus. And from here, from this function, we will return results comma error if all goes well. Okay, so far so good for you. So we have both the functions properly written, and I'm going to take a break here because I think we have completed our time. And in the next video, I'll do two very simple things. I'll just copy and paste all the Google domains, and I'll copy and paste all the user agents, and then I'll also push the code to GitHub so that you can copy these two things as well. And then what we'll do is we'll actually try running this code, and then I'm sure there'll be a lot of errors, so we'll have to fix those errors one by one, right? So do subscribe so that you come to know when the next video of this series comes out, and thanks a lot for watching.